Right now on Action News, the Occupy Wall Street movement is not just confined to Wall Street. A look at some of the global demonstrations this weekend. And GOP candidates getting some campaigning done before they come to the Valley for the next presidential debate. And Latinos trying to spread the word about a growing health concern for their community. Good morning. Welcome to Action News this morning. I'm Marco Villarreal. Those are some of the headlines this half hour. But first, here's a look at what we're talking about. The latest entry into our HOA Hall of Shame, how a case of mistaken identity wreaked havoc for one woman, and police are cracking down on drivers who are trying to avoid paying tolls. We'll explain the unusual methods they've been using. But first, let's get a check on your weather with Christian Boris. How's it looking out there, Christian? The Occupy Wall Street protest went global Saturday as demonstrators in Europe and Asia joined protesters here in the U.S., calling for economic reforms. Generally peaceful protests were punctuated by militants in some places, and in Rome there was widespread violence. ABC's Chuck Siverston reports.
The Occupy Wall Street protest.
More than 80 people were arrested yesterday in New York and nearly 50 arrested at an Occupy Wall Street protest in Arizona. And Iran's supreme leader is slamming the U.S. for saying Iran was behind an alleged plot to assassinate a Saudi diplomat. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei calls the allegations meaningless and absurd. The U.S. government accuses Iran of being involved in a plan to kill the Saudi ambassador to the United States. Iran also denies its UN representative met with the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice. The U.S. State Department said they met last week to talk about the alleged plot. Red, white, and blue 2012. No rest for the Republican presidential candidates this weekend. Herman Cain was in Tennessee working to pick up votes there. He spoke to a crowd at Tennessee Tech University. Cain had said last week that he would boycott the Nevada caucus. However, Cain's campaign says he is planning to take part in another GOP debate on Tuesday here in town at the Venetian. Anita Perry, wife of GOP presidential candidate Rick Perry, was in New Hampshire yesterday. She took part in a roundtable at a YMCA in Nashua. Earlier this week, she said her husband was being brutalized by fellow conservatives for his Christian faith. Rick Perry has been sliding in national polls since mid-September. The latest CNN poll of polls, released Thursday, shows Perry trailing Herman Cain and Mitt Romney. President Obama is scheduled to set out on another bus tour promoting jobs and the economy tomorrow. Latinos around the Valley gathered to raise awareness about a growing problem in their community, AIDS. The group met at a Metropolitan Community Church to participate in National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. They discussed the newest treatments, how to prevent the disease, and how to connect those infected. Church organizers say their parish was the perfect place for today's event.
It's close to home for us because many of our parishioners actually officiate the bilingual service, are affected in one way or another, either directly or through family members.
According to the CDC, Latinos account for 20% of new HIV infections, and as of 2009, HIV/AIDS is the #4 killer of middle-aged Latinos in the United States. Some volunteers came to better their community this weekend by pitching in and cleaning up a local park. Winterwood Park near Sahara and Nellis was spruced up thanks to local real estate pros from Commercial Alliance Las Vegas. Their main goal was to remove the graffiti that once covered much of the public space. The group has organized similar cleanup efforts at this park over the past 2 years. They say they plan to keep the space clean for years to come by visiting every so often. And we want to make your commute across the valley a smooth one if we can, so let's check in with problem solver traffic reporter Kim Smith. Thanks, Kim. Well, the annual Bite of a Las Vegas festival drew a huge crowd this weekend at Desert Breeze Park. The food festival is in its 15th year. More than 40 of Las Vegas restaurants were on site yesterday with decorated booths and a variety of menu selections. This year, some big names performed on the House of Blues main stage: OAR, Michelle Branch, and Colby Calais, just to name a few. And coming up after the break, a consumer alert to warn you about. And a popular electronics maker is recalling televisions for safety issues. Contact 13's Trisha Keene has the latest consumer headlines. But for now, let's toss it over to Christian.